Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Lab Talk. We're at number 19 now, and today we'll be trying as best as possible to talk about machine learning. And the three of us are here, but it's not just us. Jean-Francois is joining, and I would like to welcome first our editor-in-chief, first comes first, Jens Nickel, who joins us from Aachen. How is it going there, Jens?
Hi, Brian. Yeah, it's going well. We have here very fine weather. Finally, the summer arrived in Germany. You may know that there was a lot of rain from the soccer games. But now we have really, at least in Western Germany, we have very fine weather. I heard from Southern Germany, there's really heavy rain. But here it's very nice.
Just talking to our colleague Alina, and she was talking about flooding there as well in Berlin. And Jean-Francois Simon joins us from France. How are you doing?
Hello, Brian. I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, there we go. Great. Weather on your side? I know it sounds like small talk, but I really am interested in your weather.
Yeah, the weather is really good as well. Thank you. Very hot outside, but I kept the window closed to stay a bit fresh.
Cool. Well, it's perfect here. I mean, outside it's about 16 degrees in our winter, but the thermometer behind me says 22.7 degrees. That's just the way I like it. I don't need to make a noise with air conditioning today. And also we welcome to our screen here Saad Imtiaz, Chief Engineer, and he's from Pakistan, and I believe it's hot there.
Hi, Brian. Yeah, it was hot and it rained, so now it's 22 degrees. But my room temperature is still hot. It takes time to cool down. But anyways, it's all good.
Cool. And I'd also like to welcome our guests and our commenters. Frank de Hert is back. I saw you here yesterday, Frank, in my conversation with World Engineer James Lewis. Michael Walker says hello, and Danny Liebert from Belgium. I'm sure you were there as well. And Jürgen Zick from Kassel, Germany is here. Sebastian Koch from Berlin, and Carlos Huerta from Miami. So we've got another global audience, which is great. As always, we'll have an exciting giveaway to join. And since we're talking AI and machine learning, today's giveaway is an ESP32S3 Box 3. And it's got AI acceleration, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, voice recognition, all in one box, and it includes the unit, an RGB LED module to play with. A while back, I did a video on the ESP32S3 box, but this is the box 3. It's the more advanced model. You know, as soon as you get something, there's another one, a better one out. So I'm jealous. We will need a code word for that, and I will give you that later. So there's the tease. Our upcoming edition is the July-August 2024 edition, and it's Raspberry Pi Goes AI. That's my article. And then Saad's ESP32-based energy meter also features in there. So we have quite an interesting lineup coming up. The Raspberry Pi AI kit, which I'll talk about a bit later, is on my desk at the moment. And there's our table of contents as always. Quite a lineup coming up. We've got an AI Odyssey, my column, and then, of course, I told you about the Raspberry Pi official AI kit. We've got weather sensors. The focus is on IoT and sensors, but yeah, naturally, you can't do IoT and sensors these days without adding a bit of AI and machine learning. So I guess I'll start off by asking Saad, how have you been getting along with your machine learning experiments?
Well, a while back, I did that capture count project where a Raspberry Pi 5 detects objects using a YOLO V3 library. And I think it's a little bit old now because V10 is out now. And I'm still thinking about doing something with it, probably another object detection or something else. would like the chat to give me ideas what to do with it. It'd be nice to have some.
Yes, that's a great idea to get some input from the community. That makes it a lot more interesting. The chat is going fast and furious as it is. Why don't you take us through what you've been working on so far? I'm keen to hear.
Sure. So latestly, Jens and I have been working on the Elektor expansion board. Basically, it is powered by Seed Studio's Xiao series microcontrollers. The beauty about those Xiao controllers is that each one of them has the same footprint in terms of board size and IOs, but a different microcontroller. So it can be based. It can be used on different projects. I mean, if you want wireless, you can use a ESP. If you don't want wireless, you can use a SMD21 variant. But here we just wanted to make an expansion board which has multiple IOs in terms of I2C bus. We have 6 ports for that. We have all the IOs which the board provides. We can even use SPI lines as well. With this board, we have a UART connection at the front, which can be crossed. So if you don't want a communication, you just want to read the data, you can also do that. Moving on, we designed a nice enclosure for it. The coin there is just for reference. So it can be powered directly with a 5-volt and ground, and also 3 volts ground. Also be connected with the battery, as you can see here. It has a battery connection and also has a USB Type-C connection. So that's that. I'm really gonna enjoy using this Xiao board because it's gonna be used in most of my future projects now. And speaking of projects, the one coming up next is I'm working on a LoRa Sense node, using the same the expansion board. But the thing what I want to do is I'm trying to make a solar panel powered Sense node, which have a battery pack inside of it, and also MTM and PPT tracker as well by Waveshare, I believe. Both of these CAD models are designed by me because I couldn't find any model out there which suits my needs. So this Stevenson screen is going to be enclosing the SCD20 sensor, SCD30 sensor by Groove, which monitors carbon dioxide and temperature and humidity. Then we have a soil moisture sensor, and then we have a LoRa module. So I feel like it's going to be a good project, and I'm thinking of adding modularity to the CAD model, which is on the right side here, so that if someone wants to add more sensors to it, yeah, he can do that. Another project that I'm working on is I got my hands on the M5 Nano C6 when I was at the Embedded World, and the cool thing about this small board is that its size of your thumbnail is even smaller than the Xiao boards. But it has, when you're selecting a microcontroller for your project, you're mostly looking at IOs, form factor, what type of connectivity it provides. For this project, it just fits right in. It checks all the boxes because I just needed one I2C connector, and it has that. Or it has 2 digital IOs, and it can be used as an I2C bus. And yeah, then attach 2 sensors to it, the temperature, humidity, and the multi-channel gas sensor. We're going to talk about this multi-channel gas sensor later, but I just wanted to take some time about that. If we really need a small microcontroller, I think this is the way to go. And it can, you can multiply your sensors by using just a I2C bus. I2C hub by Groove. So I collected some of the data from both of the sensors, the SCD30 and also the multi-channel gas sensor. And I believe maybe my multi-channel gas sensor was bad, but as you can see in the graphs, the purple, blue, the cyan, and the orange color, these are different gases, and all of them are getting changed together. So that's not happening inside the room, because if there's a nitrogen dioxide level increase, it means something is burning inside the house or in the room, which was not. And likewise with the other ones. So I feel like this is not the sensor which I should have used in this project, but it also highlights that the SCD30 is a better sensor because it almost monitors the correct carbon dioxide levels according to the sheet I get. So
when I see M5 Nano, does it have to do something with M5 stack? Is it the same?
exactly.
Okay, and
Yes.
the C6 means probably that is an ESP32 C6.
Exactly, yes.
Is
So
that-
it has, it uses the ESP32C6, and also it has Zigbee, Wi-Fi 6. It also has a RGB LED, which I just forgot to mention. Which my basically idea was that I'm gonna put it in a small enclosure, and the RGB LED is gonna be notifying the status of the carbon dioxide level. So let's say if it's 500 or 400 ppm, then it's green, which is ideal condition. And if it goes beyond, let's say 800, then it goes to orange, yellow, red, which is bad, and people get drowsy at that 1200 ppm level. So yeah, it also has an IR blaster or an IR receiver, I believe, and a button. So it's a lot of IOs and a lot of punch in that small little microcontroller board.
And you've got quite a few sensors going on there, right? You said something about alcohol. I'm interested in that one.
Yeah, the OH, the multi-channel gas sensor. Well, it can detect ethanol, which is also alcohol in the same group. So if I used cleaning solution which has a little bit of alcohol in it, an ethanol mixture or something like that, and when I sprayed on top of it, there was a spike. So it was like, okay, this is working, but all of the other sensors also spiking up, which means there's something wrong with the board. I mean, if you can see here, this spike, I took a deep breath and this just exhales on the on the sensor in order to check whether the CO2 is correct. But other than that, if you can see here, it just every graph line is almost the same height, and everything's changing, but the readings are different. I feel like maybe this was a bad sensor, but I checked some forums, some community forums out there, and everyone, almost 80% of the people, were having the same problems with this sensor.
This black screen with the curves, what is the tool to produce these?
Well,
These
I'm
curves,
using
is
Home
also
Assistant.
Home Assistant. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And speaking of machine learning, so my basic plan was to collect all the data which I'm going to get from all these sensor and make a model which predicts which forecasts the carbon dioxide levels. And which comes to the next slide, which is I went out there and tried to find some of the libraries which I can work with. Obviously, TensorFlow Nano Lite is the obvious choice. Well, you can use the Edge Impulse as well. But main thing about machine learning is that you need to have a good collection of data. Then you need to clear the data, which is also called pre-processing. And then you have to train it. Obviously, you're going to have to train it on offsite and make a model out of it, and then deploy it on your microcontroller. But that's what I'm thinking right now, is that which one should I choose and which one is the easiest to go with. Currently, I'm leaning towards Edge Impulse, but we'll let time decide that.
Well, I know you don't drink
I'm a
alcohol,
little
so-
bit I'm a little bit surprised that there are in the meantime so many different frameworks, because in the past it was basically TensorFlow Lite and TinyML. It's just a title summarizing all approaches to have machine learning on tiny platforms. But okay, that sounds nice. Do you know anything about Alphas for Arduino from Fraunhofer? Can you say
Yes.
something?
Yeah, I mean, it's a library based on AI. I didn't get to use it,
Mhm.
but I heard, I've seen some good projects made from this library. But I think that if you keep the model trained on the offside, let's say if it's trained by edge impulse, you can check in with different values and then deploy it, rather than play around with the data you're getting or the output of the microcontroller once everything is deployed on the microcontroller or on the edge. So well, I didn't actually deploy it on using this library, but I've used another type of library, but I'm using cloud computing. So you can make your model on the cloud, you can test it on the cloud, and the cloud decides everything, and eventually just sends out an output to the microcontroller. So there's a lot of going on in the network side. But if you want something running on the edge or directly on the microcontroller, then probably the first two options are the best to go with.
These libraries at the bottom, are they also based on Python, or is it C?
There's C. I don't know much Python, so yeah, I just selected C libraries.
Mhm. Yeah, Edge Impulse is very powerful, and it's convenient if you don't want to program, or if you are not so keen on programming, because you don't have to code.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't really need to know that much Python nowadays. ChatGPT can help you a lot. My Python was also rusty.
But then you don't learn anything.
Exactly, yeah.
At least it guides you in the right direction. I don't expect it to write all the code for me, but it's really helpful in like getting you started, because I'm old school. I come from C and C++ days, so I'm good with PHP and Arduino C. But sometimes Python seems to be the way to go for a lot of these machine learning topics. Now we also
Sometimes you just have to refresh. Sometimes you just have to hit that refresh button.
Viewers to drop their questions in the chat, and yeah, you're correct, Sad. You have to hit the refresh button.
Yeah, the refresh. So definitely, I mean, when I was making the capture count project, you have to really take another course on on the YouTube, trying to get everything W3 school website, trying to get everything syntax and everything in order to start working on that language again. But it takes a little bit of time. Then you know it, and then you forget it after the project after 2 months. So you need to hit the refresh button again for that language. But yeah, it's all about the consistency and how long you spent some time on that language.
Yeah, it's crazy when you do it a lot. Sometimes it gets stuck in your head way long after it's useful. I still remember programming tricks from 40 years ago, which are completely irrelevant and not necessary now, but we still do them. And don't see any questions. I see Pratt H saying hello to us. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And of course, CJ USA, who's a regular here. How are you? Jean-Francois, you've also been working on some stuff lately. Do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, sure. Well, my experiments with machine learning have been way simpler than the ones from SAD, but and also I'm not too keen on programming. I mean, I used to do a little bit of Visual Basic at school, but it's been a long time. And strangely, nobody seems to be doing AI and ML in VB. So yeah, But so recently I've been working on making an article about TensorFlow Lite for microcontrollers. So it's a good thing that you presented the thing, Sab. So it's for those who are not very familiar with it, it's a branch of TensorFlow which is optimized for very low power targets and devices such as Arduino boards or modules from SparkFun or STM32. So on the picture you can see Arduino Nano 33BLE, and it's also compatible with the Raspberry Pi Pico. You can find the list of compatible devices on the website. And so I've been tinkering with that. Let's see. So the article is mostly ready. It's very beginner friendly, so it's not too hard on the technical side. In it, I go through a little introduction to ML, and I give some examples. There are some examples that are everywhere on the internet, such as making a sine wave, approximating the values of a sine wave. But of course, it's just a proof of concept because it's a very computationally intensive way of getting a sine on a small micro. There are also some sound recognition and such. And then I go through a practical example, which is indeed the speech recognition on the Arduino that you saw on the previous picture. So first I describe how to gather that data. I use the data set from Google because it's convenient that they have a very large set of sound files with the keywords that we can use. So that way you don't need to record them yourself. It's much easier. And then you have to prepare the data with Python, a little Python script, which I didn't write, by the way. It's really available from the internet. And then I import it to Edge Impulse. And as you said, Jens, it's very easy because you don't need much programming. It's just clicking on buttons. And you can tweak. It's also quite advanced if you need to. You can tweak the parameters of your neural network and just you can even switch to Keras mode, advanced mode, and tweak the Keras parameter, but I didn't go that route. And finally, you can deploy the whole project on the Arduino board, and it's quite convenient because Edge Impulse has a nice way of packaging the library. You can just download the zip file, and then you import it in the Arduino IDE, and you're ready to go. So it's really nice. And
so for Swat, there was also a step where you integrated some background noise. Maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah, sure. Indeed, the data set from Google is a huge pack of words. I think about 60,000, I guess, spoken by many different people with different voices, ages, intonations, and that's what you need to get a robust model, because otherwise, if you only record your own voice, it will be difficult to have a model that will be able to recognize other voices than yours. So that's I think you mentioned this previously, Sad. It's a really hard thing with ML is how to get data. So here we're using existing data, so that's easier. But as you said, Jens, there is a part in the script, I won't go into detail here, but that is mixing some random noise with the samples to make them harder to listen to. And then, but the model still can recognize features and classify them, and despite the noise. And so it gets you a model which is more robust and that can detect the words.
And this background noise, was it also integrated in the Google data set, or did you have to
Yes,
get
it is included. It's in a separate folder. I think there is some guys talking. There is some cats and dogs and doing the dishes sound and everyday life sounds.
I see. You just had to rearrange it a bit that you can upload it to Edge Impulse in the right format.
Yeah, exactly. I think the whole data set is about 2.5 gigabytes, so that's quite a lot. And then, but you don't need such a huge amount to train your model. You can. So the Python script that I found on the internet just selects randomly some parts of it. You can choose the keywords that you want. For my purposes, I only chose one word to make it easier, but you can select a few of them, and then even within that word, it doesn't upload all the samples, but a random selection of them. So in the end, I think it's about 150 megabytes of that get uploaded to AgentPulse.
And then you also have training data on the one side, and you will also have test data.
Yeah, absolutely. You can you can tick. In fact, it's really easy on AgentPulse. You can tick a box when you upload the files to let the system split between training data and testing data. So it will be usually 80% and 50%. So you can train your model with the 80% of data that you uploaded, and then you go to a separate section in the website and you train. You see if the model works by inputting it the 20 remaining percent of data, and you can see the score of accuracy that you get is a bit lower. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but it's here. Train and test the split 80 to 20, and these, by the way, the orange, yellow, and red are the three categories of things that must be recognized. One is the word that I want to recognize. So in my case, it was the word 0, and the other category is some other words which are not that one, and finally random noise. So you upload these 3 categories separately, and then it helps AgentPulse to build the model. And it's
so you see your model will work on AgentPulse, and then you can prepare it to download it to a microcontroller.
Yes, and I already checked this topic a few years back, but it was very intimidating and very hard to do anything useful. But it has very much progressed, and AgentPulse is very polished now, and you can output some libraries for many systems: Arduino, STM, a random generic C library. So it's they are supporting a lot of options. So it's really easy to try. For example, for this one, I just chose Arduino, and it gets you a zip file that you can import in your IDE by clicking Sketch and import a library as a zip, and etc.
Does it has any options for training the model on different different computing powers? Let's say you can select a virtual computer inside AgentPulse, which has more RAM to train the model faster.
I'm not sure about that. It's probably yes, but maybe you need a paid version for this. I didn't go too deep in the config of AgentPulse, but I just use the free version that anyone can use, so that anyone can replicate the test. And then you have to wait a little bit because it's a queue, and the server is shared among all users. So some steps take a little bit of time, which is not related to the real computing problem that it is, but you're just sharing the server, but it's quite fast nevertheless.
Yes, because I mean, I didn't use AgentPulse, but when we were to train some models, we used Amazon AWS. As our computers are not that fast and didn't want to run them for days, we just used AWS to train our models and to get our data sets. Because with the, let's say, voice, that's even a very extensive data set. But let's say with the just sensor values with time, in order to just get the forecasting data right, you need to have a lot of data. In millions of data points you need in order to get the right model prepared.
Indeed, the amount of data that you need can be quite a problem, and AgentPulse is really easy to use because I considered other options to build the model on the computer and to train it using Keras and all that, but it's first you need a Linux PC because some tools are not supported on Windows, and then you need to install a whole lot of Python packages, and the config gets really messy. So I gave up quite quickly and used the AgentPulse instead.
How fast is this process? Are there are there steps where you have to wait an hour or something, or is it
Oh, I
done
think
by-
if you follow, of course, when I did it, I took longer because I was experimenting. But if you just follow the tutorial, I think in 30 minutes to 1 hour, it's done.
Yeah, just the processing time. I meant just processing time. Is it?
Oh no,
done
processing
in-
time is it's a matter of minutes.
Okay.
Probably if you, but I used just one keyword. But maybe if you use more than one, then the model gets a little bit more complicated to compute, and it's possible that it's a bit longer. But anyhow, it's maybe less than 3 to 4 minutes per step. So.
You spoke about using alternatives, Jean-Francois. I'm just watching the chat here. And Pratt H asks if there are alternatives to edge impulse. I'm also not an expert. I'm no engineer, so that's open to you or Saad to answer.
Yeah, I think.
TensorFlow.
Yeah, but Edge Impulse is using TensorFlow.
Not simultaneously, guys.
Yeah.
I think Edge Impulse is using TensorFlow behind the hood, under the hood, but yeah, I think it's the most powerful option is to train it yourself using Keras on your PC or on in the cloud. You can use, for example, Google Colab, which gives you access to servers where you can run Python code, and you can also enable the option to use GPUs. And it comes pre-installed with the TensorFlow library in Python, so you can. It's reasonably polished, but still it needs more config and more tinkering than Edge Impulse.
Well, Pratt has added some clarification to that question. You mentioned Google Colab or OpenMV. So that
yeah, exactly. I don't have experience with OpenMV, but maybe Saad, you do. I don't know.
I mean, it's just a platform. Basically, the TensorFlow is a framework, and Google Colab is a place where you can train your model, just like if you want to do it on AWS cloud or even your computer. Yeah. So right now, what I tested, I mean, TensorFlow, but I didn't directly train a model on Edge Impulse. I used my computer to train the model for TensorFlow. I think there are a lot of options out there. There are a few libraries which I shared, but yeah, you have to train the model in a specific manner for a specific application. It's very application dependent.
Yeah, one difficulty I found is that it kind of needs a strong understanding of how machine learning in general works and how neural networks work as well. So it gets very quickly complicated regarding the architecture of the network and the layers and the parameters, and it's very it gets quite a pain quickly.
And we've got a question from Wojtek. Excuse me if I pronounced that incorrectly. I'm not sure how to do it, but is it possible to fine-tune a model on the target MCU board on real data?
Yeah,
that would be very
yes.
unfeasible. No, that would be very unfeasible, because the data you will have, the amount of data you will have, the microcontroller is actually making decisions from the model it's been trained for. So you cannot fine tune the model right on the microcontroller. You're gonna have to pre-model or make changes in the training model phase, which is more faster to do. So that's how the process works. I mean, you train a model, you try to do something, you deploy it, it's not working as it should. You cannot fine tune it at that stage. If you could, it might take a lot of time. So the better, most easiest way is to go back, train your model correctly, and then deploy it again.
I think you may be able to still use the, for example, in my example, the Arduino Nano 33. I think you may be able to install another different package, different from the one I used, from Edge Impulse, and then you can send, for example, audio samples captured by the Arduino to Edge Impulse for. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what was asked, but in the comments. But yeah, that makes me think about it.
Well, I'm glad that this will be on replay after we've done this live stream, because I certainly need to come back and refresh what you guys all just said. And a reminder to our audience, of course, if you are watching this live and need to catch up, then you can catch the replay. Or if you're watching the replay, just rewind a bit if you need a refresher like I do.
And
Don't see any further questions. Continue.
No, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Okay. Jens, I haven't had too much experience with edge impulse and machine learning. I've been trying a bit of this and a bit of that. How far have you made strides into the field? I see you've been experimenting.
I have to admit, I do not have many experiences. I once tried edge impulse, a little bit speech recognition, and I tried to really make it tricky for edge impulse to separate, for example, yes and no. And yeah, the results were not so satisfying. And then my time was left for this. But I really plan to dive into that again. And yeah, maybe also outside of edge impulse, maybe that I'm also coding something. Because yeah, that's also overlapping, of course, with the other AI things like finding things in documents and so on. And I really want to dive into that.
Yeah, I use a lot of AI front ends. I'm no AI genius. Sorry to the guys in the chat who want in-depth ML stuff. Our engineers can help with that start and Jean-François, but it's amazing the stuff you can do on AI in terms of summarizing documents, creating voices, cloning voices, creating images. Although the images, I'm getting a bit tired of seeing obvious AI images on social media, but you can do better if your prompts are good. And you mentioned, Jens, getting the project to recognize yes or no, which are two very basic commands. And you'll kill me because I always go back to retro computing, but I remember from the 80s, Milton Bradley made an educational expansion system which had a headset. It could only recognize yes or no. You paid all this money to get this educational kit, and all you could do was say yes or no. Good question from Carlos Huerta here. Any experience in speech to text? I, again, use front-end tools on the web, but Arduino or Raspberry Pi, have you guys done any of that locally on the machine?
I didn't on my side.
I didn't do any speech to text, but there are a lot of models out there for speech to text. I mean, for Raspberry Pi, it never ends because it's Python based. You can run it on the single board computer as a program. I mean, there's a bunch of products posted on our labs platform. Yeah, with the Raspberry Pi, I believe it is already done many times, and a lot of projects I've done so far. But on Arduino, I'm not so sure. But on the latest ESP32S3, now you're able to talk with the S3 box. Actually, it detects your sound. It sends your sounds to ChatGPT or any chat AI model you're using, and you get an answer that way. So you can use it for that purpose as well.
Well, I actually do run on Ubuntu to generate transcripts. I use something called Whisper, which is a command line, and it generates transcripts of interviews and stuff that I've done. If I could share my window. I wasn't prepared for this question, but it is a good question. You know what? I'll share my window just now when I can get my Ubuntu up and running. I would like to show Carlos the speech to text, but it's not running on an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi. I would imagine on a stock Raspberry Pi, it would be slow because I'm running a GPU here on the PC, which is a 4070, so it can crunch through those. But I have recently got my hands on the Raspberry Pi AI kit, which I'll talk about just now. So I'd be keen to see how it can do things like speech to text locally on the Pi using that acceleration from Halo. So good question, Carlos. Speaking of voice recognition, let's go back to what we spoke about earlier, which was our giveaway. It's the ESP32S3 Box 3. Now, if you saw my video a couple months ago, I played with the older version of this, and yeah, it can do voice recognition and it's local. So, you know, any of you with concerns about Alexa or Google listening in on you. In fact, I saw a story the other day where I saw this on YouTube. The guy had his whole home running on Amazon Alexa, and an Amazon delivery guy came past and dropped something off, and the doorbell automatically, no one was home, the doorbell said, "Hi, can I help you?" And the guy must have misheard it because he said he was insulted or something and reported back to Amazon, and they shut down his whole house for a week while they investigated, and he provided evidence, and they didn't even apologize. They said, "Oh, we've done an investigation and did not find any wrongdoing on your part, so now your house works again." That's a bit concerning. So things like this that operate on your local network, you know, you've got more privacy, you've got more control, and obviously if you're watching this channel, then you're into that sort of thing, and we're giving away one of these. As you see, it's very nice and a lot of features, a lot of stuff going on there. You've got the unit, the sensor, dock bracket, and everyone's waiting for the keyword, I imagine. So let's add that to the stage. Yeah, there we go. There's the giveaway page. You go to elektormagazine.com/Elektor-Lab Talk-giveaway, or you can scan the QR code, and the keyboard, boom, 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 is robot. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything more creative but short for a topic such as machine learning. Elektor team is chiming in. Thanks for helping out. Here's the link. Join our giveaway. And shall we move on now? This is my article on the Raspberry Pi AI kit. I recently acquired it. Now, I'm looking around me. Yeah, I did this. Let me put my camera on screen. Sorry. I want the big picture. Excuse me, guys. Figuring out this interface again. It's worse than Python. Yeah, there we go. A while ago, I got the Raspberry Pi hat, the M.2 hat, which enables me to plug in an SSD and boot from the SSD, which is great. The only downside here is that the M.2 hat is single lane PCI Express only. So this plugs into the Raspberry Pi's PCI port. And being single lane, you either run an SSD or you run something like a Halo AI accelerator, which is exactly what I'm doing here in this corner. I'm using an action cam for this, so I can't zoom in or anything. In fact, when I moved it, I should not have moved it because I killed it. Let me just show you on my main camera. This is it. This is the Raspberry Pi AI kit. Focus that right there. And it's running and it's connected, and I've got a camera up and running, and it's actually running object detection on the screen here. But I fear that this camera may not zoom in far enough for this, but we'll try this. Action cam did not like to be moved. Okay, so now the command that I last used, and Saad, you mentioned I used OpenCV last time I experimented, and you said that YOLO was better because you had more experience with YOLO and it seemed to work better. And I see that that seems to be the default for the Halo kit. So this one is using the YOLO 5 inference model. And if I pull that up, and you can see the detection up and running. That is what the camera is seeing now. So if I hold some things up, yeah, it's not 100% accurate, but my hand is a person. Yeah, so you got that right. That's a person. Let's have a look at my cell phone. Does it detect it? Yep, it's got cell phone there, and it can detect keyboard. So yeah, that's interesting. And what I want to actually do is, it's all very well sitting at the desktop, detecting these things that we use all the time in our offices. But I'd like to take it out in the field and try something such as number plate recognition. You know, if you're living, say, in a complex like I am, it might be interesting for, say, security to see, privacy considerations aside, but you are running the security of the complex, to see who's coming in, who's going out, you know, so you've got complete logs. If there is an incident, you can see what cars came in and out, that sort of thing. I'm sure there are other applications. For example, you could take it out into the street, or you know, monitor traffic, or see who's breaking laws, or what sort of speeds people are doing, or what laws they are breaking. Are they making right turns more often at the left turn lane, that sort of thing. I'm interested in that, but I'd be keen to hear from you guys what sort of applications you think would be useful out in the field.
I feel like it's much faster than before, as also a little bit more better, because your hand was at the very edge of the screen, or at the very edge of the FOV, and it was still detecting you as a person. And the mouse and the keyboard was getting detected, although was not in completely full frame. So maybe the V5 got better, but also the V10 is out now. And I was seeing some posts about V9, and it's even faster than that. So I feel like it's just getting faster and faster. And I think anything can be possible with these image detection models. You can pretty much do anything you want with it. You can run your house on Sentry mode, in terms of just put your camera on, and you don't need to rely on other security cameras, and you can run your own security system, and which can tell you something passed by, what was it, rather than just detecting there was a person or a car or a movement, but rather than specifying what it actually is. Was it a cat or a dog or an elephant crossing the road?
Yeah, I've got a camera. It's a great camera. It's a security camera, so it's not open source or anything. I can't dabble with it, but it's a great camera. But it only triggers on motion, and I'm pointing it at my car, but obviously the car's in a parking lot, so there's a lot of motion all day long. If you want to check out an incident, you've got to go through minutes and minutes and minutes of motion detection, and I'd rather have, you know, a little bit more intelligence than that. So that sounds great. And I'm working on YOLO 5. I saw there was a YOLO 6, but now you're telling me they've gone all the way up to 10. What are the primary differences between those different inference models?
I mean, it's based on the same. Well, I'm no expert, but it's based on the same model, but they optimized it in various ways in every version. So it's based on that. It's basically optimization from each version is better than the next one. So some version work. Let's say the V6 might work better in some areas, and the V10 might work and better in those areas, or even other areas. So it's basically on that. And also the sample rate and everything is very dependent, because everything needs to be faster and accurate. And I think that's all they do. But yeah, we should definitely check out their websites, the V10, in order to check out what actually they improved.
Yeah, I would have a look at the website. I just want to say about this, speaking of website, the Raspberry Pi AI kit, which was very useful for me. Put it up on screen here. On the Raspberry Pi website, you can see the URL at the top. Pause if you need to. It was very useful to have this hand-holding to get you through it. There it is mounted. You don't see a camera in that particular picture, but you see there's a cutout over here, which is an ideal place for the camera ribbon cable to escape, which they've thought of. I don't have any sort of cooling. They do recommend an active cooling kit. You know, there's a fan in the default Raspberry Pi case, but that won't fit over the AI kit. So if you have active cooling, what is your experience, I'd say, with cooling? Do you use cooling much on your Pis? I haven't found that I've needed it just yet. I've got a sizable heatsink currently on the board, but do you need cooling much?
Well, for the Pi 5, I'm just using the stock cooling solution, which is provided by the Raspberry Pi. For my Raspberry Pi 4, which is running the Home Assistant, it's just using a heatsink and just passive cooling, no active cooling solution. And the Raspberry Pi, which is running my Octo printer, is also just enclosure, which is entire big heatsink, but no active solution. But I think if you're running an application which is actively processing and you feel like, okay, the processor is about 90% at all times while running this program, then yeah, I believe you do need some cooling in order to increase the longevity of your the processor, because the cooler the electronics is the more further they go in lifespan.
Brian,
Yeah.
maybe a dumb question, but this AI kit for Raspberry Pi, is it especially dedicated for image recognition, object recognition, or can you also do voice recognition? And can you also do, for example, fusion of sensor data and such things?
Well, from what I've experimented so far, it seems like it is general AI acceleration. But when I chatted with Evan Upton, they said the main focus currently was on machine vision applications. So it doesn't necessarily have to be object detection, but anything involving the camera seems to be their focus. And as we saw at Embedded World earlier this year, they were teasing an AI camera there. And I say teasing because they never announced it, but it was standing there on the counter and it was doing not only object detection, but gesture recognition. So how you stood and that sort of thing. I suppose if you wanted to make a dancing game or something.
That's the usual demonstration you see on fairs because it's the most attractive, I think. It's very tough to make a demonstration on a fair with speech recognition. So you always have these cameras and you have these screens where people see themselves with a frame around them.
Oh, that is a good point. Speech recognition, but if you got the right microphone, and I've seen some amazing AI stuff on, for example, today I watched a video on DaVinci Resolve video editing. Now I use Premiere Pro, but a lot of people aren't happy with Adobe at the moment for their sneaky terms of service and making you agree to allow them to use your creative projects that you've created for their AI to learn on. Anyway, I had a look at DaVinci Resolve and it does amazing things like you can be in a noisy environment like outside with traffic going and you can just say isolate voice. So I wouldn't put it out of the question at a noisy fair with the stuff I've seen happening lately. I want to bring up this window now, if you don't mind. Might take me a moment, but this is just for Carlos. It was a good question. Okay, that's my Ubuntu. I'm running Ubuntu here in Windows. And I did an interview with Evan Upton recently, and I wanted to, get a transcript so I could get a summary, so I could, read through it rather than having to listen to a whole half an hour interview again. And I used this Whisper. And as you can see there, the command line is Whisper, and then the file name, select a language, and I used the large language model. So that runs slower. Maybe I can choose small for this demonstration to get it to run faster. It may or may not come up with something, but yeah, sometimes it takes a while. But at the end of the day, I did get a text file transcribed out of that I was able to use. And because this is, there we go. The text is starting to come through. And we weren't talking about anything confidential, so I can show you a bit of that. And that's great. That's what we talked about. I'm stopping it there. But that's just a demonstration of what we got up to. It's very cool, and it's running on Ubuntu. So I imagine it would run on a Raspberry Pi pretty easily, although I'm not sure what tweaks would be required to ensure that you're using the AI accelerator, if possible, rather than just on the general CPU. Do you have any experience with AI acceleration on the Pi? I know there were other products such as the Google Coral. Again, looking at you engineers, Saad and Jean-Francois, I know it's a new thing as well, and I don't know if you have the M.2 hat either to plug in anything like that, but any experience?
I'll have to get my hands on it first to try test actually these are accelerators, so it's basically enhances the SBCs in order to do that certain application. So yeah, definitely is going to make everything faster in terms of machine learning and AI. And yeah, maybe in the next project can be that I can deploy, rather running on the Raspberry Pi, I can run it on the accelerator and check out what's the main difference between these two.
Well, I'm touching the accelerator now with my finger and burning. I think I'm going to power down this Raspberry Pi. But that answers my question about the need for cooling. I think you definitely need cooling on that AI accelerator. The main CPU is fine, but I could boil an egg on this Halo accelerator right now. No more questions in the comments section, but if you do have any last minute questions, please drop them. We're about 4 minutes from the top of the hour. Just a reminder of our upcoming magazine, which I mentioned earlier. That's July and August, and yeah, that's right up my alley. I love these little modules and these little sensors, and we've got AI going on, so I look forward to seeing the whole magazine, even though we've all been working hard on it. And the table of contents looks to be very interesting as well.
Yes, we have a thermal imaging project, which is quite nice. Uses an 8x8 sensor from Panasonic and an Arduino. And yeah.
When you say 8x8, you mean 64 pixels, basically?
64 pixels, yes. But Roland, which is also a regular author, he made some interpolation between pixels, so the resolution is virtually a little bit bigger. And yeah, there are many other articles, for example, from Tom Hanna about Amazon Web Services, and now you can connect a simple Arduino to it. Yeah, and many other. Start from you, the weather station sensors articles is also interesting. You are diving into all that humidity and temperature sensors, and yeah, compare specs. And there are many other articles. And yeah, we maybe have to say something about our bonus content, which is new.
Yep.
Now we have regularly bonus editions in PDF form. And yeah, this is the first regular one for IoT and sensors. And everybody can download it for free.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have that much content. A problem in the magazine industry would be trying to get enough content, and we're just blessed with an abundance. We have such great community and stuff coming from Elektor Labs platform. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, let me pull it up here. Yeah, elektormagazine.com/labs. And you can go there and you can submit your own projects. And sometimes we like them, and then we'll reach out to you and reach some sort of deal where we can print the article. And that's where we get a lot of our submissions and projects and all that sort of thing. I'm just bringing up the window again, sorry. That's the Labs platform. So we've got some great guy. I mean, DIY Chris, he was on one of our live streams recently. DIY smart robots. So that's elektormagazine.com/labs, as you see at the top. Function generator kit from Ramji. There's our Clements with an audio DSP FX processor. I've seen a lot from Max Imagination recently, and this he does a lot of RC stuff, and I want to try building one of his drones, small ones. You know, it's all very interesting. I can't go on about this for hours and hours.
Yeah, we get more and more also machine learning proposals, speech recognition and image recognition.
Yeah. Which is great for, who asked the question earlier? Somebody asked about more machine learning content, and yeah, check out our labs platform,
Yes.
but also check out our magazine. The bonus content each month, we have so much content, so much good content that we don't want to throw away or turn down or delay for another issue. So as you see in the bottom left, we are trying to have a bonus edition for every regular edition now. And that was the next coming up edition, but just a reminder, this is very preliminary, but we have every year we have the Circuit Special in summer in the Northern Hemisphere, but winter down south here, which I keep reminding the team because I'm not the only team member in the south. And the Circuit Special is always very popular and has been for the last, 40 years. It's a thick edition with lots of little circuits that you can knock out quickly in a weekend. No more questions, and it's 1 minute past the hour, so I suppose we should wrap this up. Even Michael Walker is saying thanks. Ciao for now. Ciao, Michael. Sorry to keep you a minute over the hour. I do need to remind our viewers that we have upcoming stuff. We have a webinar on Thursday, July 11th. Again, same time. That would be 16 hours Central European summertime. Same time zone here. I guess that's 15 hours UTC. And it will be electronics workbench tips and tricks. That's where our esteemed engineers come in handy. So we've got pro tips on equipment and tools, organization hacks for efficiency, safety practice for your workspace, and a chance to win Tektronix Epic Oscilloscopes books. And I know you all can read, but that's the highlights of what's coming up. And then if you watch Elektor Engineering Insights, I've also got one coming up with Look Mum No Computer, but that comes at the end of July. You can find that on our YouTube channel, which again, I'll pull up on screen here. Go to our YouTube channel. As you see, that's what you're watching right now. Click on live and you can click on notify me, which I'll do now, for the July 11th, and on July 31st, Look Mum No Computer. So Elektor Engineering Insights meets Sam, and his channel is hugely popular, and he deals with old synthesizers, a lot of analog stuff, and including the Elektor Foreman, which was pretty legendary at the time, an analog synthesizer that you could make by yourself. Back to this. To keep up on the next lab talks that we're having, elektormagazine.com/elektor-lab-talk. There's a URL from our team. That's a lot to type. I would just go to our YouTube and click on live, but yeah, that also works. And once again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks for those of you who did have questions. Jens, you're going to get back to Cologne, okay?
Yes, in the evening. But I will finish one text today.
Right,
It's for
great.
September, the wireless edition.
Always hardworking, never stops. It's time to take a deep breath now after a live stream like this. It's always hectic. I know you also hate them, Jean-Francois. It is a bit hectic when you're on live. There's no editing. You've got to just keep pushing through. When your camera stops working, you have to grab the next one.
You have to get it right the first time. Well, thank you, Ryan. It was nice talk.
Thanks for joining us. And as to you, Saad, thanks once again for your insights from all the way there in Pakistan. I've got a lot to learn from you guys on machine learning, but I'll keep trying. Next step is to get an active cooler for this Halo accelerator because, yeah, like I said, I can fry an egg on it. And I think that's it. Look at the questions. Nothing left. Just a bunch of links from our team. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jens. Thanks, Jean-Francois. Thanks, Saad. And thank you to all our guests. And good luck if you're entering the competition. Remember the keywords robots. Thank you, and have a good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are.